Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Silent Man Podcast. I'm your host, Javier Talamantes. So today's episode is about legacy. Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying, number one, first is thank you so much for allowing me to come into your home and, just in general, just allowing me to go ahead and have this time to be able to speak with you and to, work together, for us to work together on, the things that are affecting men nowadays. And it all has to do with not talking, not communicating, and then just not really providing anyone with information about what we're going through, because we don't want to be I guess the main thing, and like I said, I'm going to speak from my on my behalf. I don't want to be judged. Okay, I don't want to be judged. I definitely think that the times that I've been quiet, or the times where I don't say anything, this goes even as of today, is because I don't maybe want to hear something that's gonna be against what I believe in, right? So I'll give you a perfect example. I've got this humongous goal to be able to get a property. I've already went ahead and found the property, and the property is going to serve a purpose, and the purpose is going to be for the Silent Man, events that we're going to be having ongoing. We're going to be also having events for the Silent Man as well as the silent child, because in some cases we're a reflection, our kids are a reflection of us. So that's going to be something else that we're going to be working on as well. And then ultimately it's just to have a safe haven for men, right? For men, just like you, just like me, just like all of us, for all of us men to have a safe haven where we can go and we can be vulnerable, we can also be open, we can speak, without any judgment. And that's something that's humongously important. I've said in past episodes that I've done a lot of motivational work. And, in one case, I did go to a ranch on various occasions. In one of the seminars, ongoingly, we went to a ranch. It was great because we were able to do an event where it was just men, right? And if you guys want to ever do something like that, then it's just amazing. It's amazing for so much testosterone to just occupy a space. But at the same time, all that, the testosterone gets overtaken by just men being vulnerable and just being, how we were brought into this world, little children, right? Like these little kids, right? I'm 6'5", and I just became like a little kid when I was at that ranch. And, like I said, it just, even thinking about it right now, it's just taking me back to that specific moment when I'm at that ranch right now. And I'm envisioning, going back there, and it's like, and it was such an amazing feeling that, you walk in, the first day you walk in and you're just sizing, and that's what we do, guys. We do that in real life. I just walked in and I'm just sizing everybody up, right? I'm like, okay, what does that guy do? What does that guy do? Okay, well, what's he? And then I'm just, looking up and down and just trying to see, okay, where are they from, or where do they come from? And and so the first day, it's like, it's not the whole first day, but the first day I was doing a lot of that. And and it kind of reminds me right now, and that's like prejudging, right? I was prejudging people in reality. Even after doing the work, guys, I had already done tons of the work, of the motivational work, working on myself, taking pieces out and then bringing new pieces in, tearing out old programs and then reattaching the new programs, right? Think of it like a Raggedy Ann doll a Raggedy Andy doll, right? Where it's just, if you were to tear them apart, you would have to stitch them back together. And that's kind of the same way I felt. It was like, like bits and pieces, right? And so so that first day was just prejudge, right? Prejudge, I walked in there, had a big ego, and so then you start doing the work, right? Because the first thing that they basically told us was, look, guys, whatever you guys thought you came here for, it's not it. And they said, if you want to get the best possible results of these next, I think it was 7 days that we were there. I said, they said, no, I'm sorry, it was 10 days. It was 10 days. And they said, if you want to get the best possible results, number one, just basically, get rid of the ego, just be with, and then also participate. Like if they basically, ask somebody, hey, do you want to talk about your experience, after an event or after an exercise, like be the first one, right? Be the first one to shoot your hand up and say, hey, I want to share, right? And so, I was taking like copious notes. I mean, note after note. I was just like crazy. I was just note after note. I was just taking, because I wanted to, I really had already told myself hey, before I got into the event, I had already told myself hey, you've got to kick that chip off your shoulder. Like you're not the one all end all. And so when I got there, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to immerse myself into this experience and be, vulnerable, and just allow it to just to saturate me, just to like come over me. And so we were taking notes. The facilitators were talking to us, and then they got tough. And they were like, okay, all right, enough of that. All right, let's get started. And then they gave us the first exercise, and I was like, man, we just flew in. We drove in after that, and it's like, and now we're already doing work, right? And I think it was like I forget what day it was, but it was already getting into like the mid-afternoon, and so the exercise, I'm not going to tell you what the exercise is, but the exercise didn't. It's not the exercise that we did. It's how we did the exercise. So I'll share with you that the exercise, even before we began, it was told to us that the way to, get past this exercise is that we need to come to an agreement, right? We need to come to an agreement. And so, the next step was, they said, okay, go ahead and start. We're going to step out of the room, but we'll be watching you guys, and we'll be back in later. And so then they left, right? And that was the first moment that all the men, I think there was, I got to say, there was 110 men. That's why I said, when I said all that testosterone, man. So, they left us alone, and it wasn't break up into groups or anything. It was like, hey, you guys are going to work together, okay? So immediately, once they left, and I'll ask you guys if this has ever happened to you in your life also. Immediately when they left, you had some of the people, or some of the men, literally appoint themselves. I'm the chief. I'm one of the leaders. So you had a bunch of guys just appointing themselves to being like the overseers, right, or whichever way you want to call it, and I think it made a lot of men, like it made me like almost not want to participate, and and the only reason I'm telling this story is because I think in life, if you've got people in your life that step in and then they want to go ahead and just kind of tell you what to do, how to do, when to do, For your own good, by the way, guys. All right, for your own good, they tell you all these things, and they step in and they just basically tell you, like, just say, look, be quiet, just listen, follow my lead. I guarantee you, we'll get out of this. And so that's kind of what happened at this exercise, right? So we had a bunch of guys, just like the room was square. We were basically standing in a large, humongous, like, square, rectangle, whatever you want to call it, and so we're all looking at each other, right? Still sizing each other up. Everyone was still sizing each other up and kind of figuring out who's who and what's what and everything else. And so we started doing this exercise. Guys started popping out of nowhere, basically saying, I'm a leader, because prior to accepting to go to this event, because you have to choose to go to the event, and you've got to pay to go to the event, and you've got to make, you've got to go ahead and plan. You've got to go ahead and let your work know, or if you're your boss, you have to go ahead and make sure you let your employees know what they're going to do for the next 10 days. And so you had to do all these things, and so therefore you get to now choose in, and so once you choose in, you're at the seminar, right? And so the leadership, it's all about leadership. And so this was the next evolutionary step into the seminar, but it was only men. So they had taken all the women out of the equation, and it was only men. So once again, you had all these guys coming out of the woodwork. I'm the boss, I'm the leader, I'm going to get you out of this, don't worry about it. And then you had a bunch of guys just kind of sitting there with kind of their head down and just kind of out of it, right? They weren't choosing in. They didn't want to be at that point, a lot of men did not want to be a part of it. And so we went on, and then so we started the exercise, and people were being combative. People started raising their voices. Other people basically went even deeper into, like, just not saying anything, being standoffish. Moving to the outer part of the square, and just like I said, guys, in other episodes, I'm a watcher. I'm watching everything, always, all the time, and then kind of making conclusions in my own mind, and then when reality sets in, and I kind of get back into tune with what's going on. But ultimately, I'm always just watching. And so that day I was just watching. I was watching all these men, and and there were unfamiliar faces because we had just basically walked into the room before they started us on our first exercise, and it just kind of, and the reason I'm telling that story is because that's how I see us now, right? As men. I don't see us as a united front, right? Even though I know for a fact that whatever you guys are going through, I'm going through, or have gone through, or will be going through, but we have that in common already. No, the second thing we have in common is we're all men. The third thing we have in common is we all hurt. The fourth thing we have in common is we're all strong, okay? No matter what position you're in, no matter financially, emotionally, in whatever hierarchy we live in, like, you're all strong men, okay? And I'm giving all that to you as a gift, and I'm giving it back to you, that you're all strong men, every single one of you. Because number one, when you wake up in the morning and you get out of bed and you put that first foot down and you jump in the shower, whatever you do, you're already a winner. Like, you're already a winner just by doing that. Because when you let things overcome you, stress, anxiety, depression, anything else, most likely you're probably in bed, and you're fighting the fact of getting out of bed, because that's almost like a safe place for us, right? You just get in there, you just kind of just curl up, and we go back to, once again, we go back to what? Like a little kid, right? Like a little child. And you guys have all heard that old saying, we start as a baby, or we start as a little child, and we end as a little child. So we start at the very beginning, and then when we get older, at the very end, it's basically we revert, right? So depression, anxiety, stress, all that, the way that our mind tends to cure that feeling is by reverting back to this child, right? And curling up into a fetal position. And in some cases, it doesn't need to be like that. It could be, you're basically sitting in your car and you're just not going anywhere, or you decide that going to the gym is going to be something that's going to jolt you and get you out of that, and next you're at the gym and you're not doing anything. So it could be a multitude of things. But like going back to the exercise that we were doing, and so I'm looking around at these men, and they're just out of tune. They're disconnected. They're just like, I'm not going to do this. Not going to do it. I'm not going to be part of this. And you can see it in their face, man. It's just and I, and I'm a leader. I'm a leader, and 1,000% I'm a leader. And so I was like, you know what? Let me get up and let me do something about it. But then I looked at people, and I was like, this is going to become this is going to become not like a fight where it's going to be physical, but it was going to be a fight of the minds, like like a battle, right? And so I kind of stood back like everybody else and just was listening, and I'm watching and listening, watching. So, to get to the point of what ended up happening with that. So then you had the facilitators come back in, right? It was two guys, and they came in, and the first thing they said, "Are you all in agreement?" And everybody just kind of looked at each other, right? We're all looking at each other, and then they said it again. Are you all in agreement? And somebody said, yes. And then across the room, somebody says, no. And then they said, okay. And they turned around, they left. They're gone, right? And we're sitting there, right? And then like you started seeing a little bit of the ugly side of people coming out. They all looked at the guy that said, no, we're not in agreement. And they said, why'd you say that? Why'd you say that? Like, we are in agreement. Like, we're going to get to eat, once we're done with this. And you have to go ahead and say that we're not in agreement. And the guy, man, I give him respect. To this day, man, I remember that guy. And the way he just said it, he says, I'm not going to lie, and I see everyone that we're not in agreement. So I'm going to be truthful. And and I'm going to tell the truth, and so you live with it, whatever, right? And so people started making comments, right? They're like, oh man, so we're going to be here all night. If we can't get into agreement, not only are we not going to eat, we're not going to sleep, right? Because they had told us, they said, look, if you guys can't come to an agreement to move forward as a group, then guess what? You're gonna stay in this room until it happens. And so we're everyone, like I said, everyone's making comments, and I'm thinking, under my, like, in that under voice, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, what these people, what did I really decide to come here, like, to deal with this? And like, and I'm making my own comments to myself, right? And then I caught myself, and I'm like, no, hold on. There's a purpose, and there's a lesson to this. So stay focused, right? And like I said, once again, guys, when I say we're always working on each other, that's what it looks like, right? And so when we're always shifting, right, to do something different, that's what it looks like. It just immediately just stop, look, listen to your own voice, and then move, right? So don't ever stop, look, and then like second guess yourself. Don't do that. Like stop, look, listen to your inner voice, listen to what's going on, be in tune with what's going on inside you, and then move. Just don't stay there. So then I was like, no, let's see what's going to happen. So then, some of the guys, basically, the guys that had come up at the very beginning and were like, I'm the leader. I'm the, I'll tell you guys what to do. All of a sudden they said, you know what, I'm going to step back. And it looked crazy, like, right? So we're all like literally sitting in this square, and we're all looking into the middle of the square. And all of a sudden you saw the people that were standing in the front, right? Because they were standing in the square, like almost like like sergeants in the army or something, and they were all just kind of looking at us, right? And like, okay, are you with me, kind of type of thing. And then it was like all of a sudden those people that were in the square got back in line, and next you had a whole another set of people that decided to be like the leaders. I'm going to go ahead and guide you guys. I know what this is all about. I've played this game before. And so they were making all these different comments. So then next we started all over again, right? Okay, is everybody in agreement? No. Why not? Okay, and then everybody had to talk about why they weren't in agreement, why they didn't want to move forward, why they chose the way they chose. And so, let's figure another hour went by. And next they're like, the two guys came back in again, the facilitators, and they got this face, right? Like, are you all in agreement? And then they were like, and then all of a sudden everybody goes, yes. And then you hear this faint, no. And I was like, oh man, not again. They didn't ask, the facilitators did not ask the second time if everybody was in agreement. That was it. They cut it off. They said, okay, we'll be back. Turned around and everybody's like yelling, right? No, don't leave. Hold on. Hey, everybody, get in agreement. Hurry right now. Come on, let's take a vote. And these were the guys that the new leaders that got in the middle of the square. So then they said no. They turned around, they left, and they closed the door. Oh man, we're like, oh, what? And there's nobody else in the room, right? Other than the guys that were doing the seminar. And so then they left, and then it really got nasty, right? It got nasty. People were blaming each other, Oh, I know. Who said, like, basically the first thing after they left, right, was, one of the guys that was the leader or acting like a leader said, who said no? And then one guy in the back, basically lifted his hand. And they said, why'd you say that? We could have, we could have been done with this, And he says, he's just said it in the softest voice that you can imagine. He said, how can we move forward if we're not in agreement? And everybody just looked at him, right? Imagine, like, the most soft-spoken person. And so he said, okay. And then everybody started, a lot of the guys started saying, yeah, he's right, because we would always go back to what the instructions were, right, at the very beginning by the facilitators, which said, you cannot move forward until you're in agreement. And so therefore, like, everybody said, like, hey, you know what? Yeah, remember what the facilitator said? They said we cannot move forward until we're all in agreement. So yeah, he's right. He's right. We're not in agreement. Okay. All right, guys, everybody, come on, let's get back into doing this. So then we had to go ahead and do it again, right? And so by this time, I think we were like, I'm not kidding you, man. I think we were like 4 hours into this. And we're all standing there, and I think we're being allowed to just take a restroom break. That's the only thing that saved everyone. But other than that, we weren't allowed to, drink anything, no eating. We hadn't had, we basically, I don't think we had lunch up to that point. We were already heading into dinner, and no snacks, no nothing. All right, so this was like the craziest thing. And then, so we all got back into doing the work and trying to get into agreement and everything else. And then, so the thing that got really ugly was guys started saying, you know what? I don't care who's not in agreement. Lie, say whatever you need to say, because we need to go ahead and like we need to finish this and get to the next, the next what do you call it, the next exercise, or let them and let us eat or whatever we need to do. And I was like, what? And I think I said something like, we've already done work. We've already done work in other seminars, and now we're here, and then we're doing this as men. So we need to go ahead and like we need to get on the same page, and the best way we can get on the same page is let's be truthful with each other. I said, let's be vulnerable. And everybody looked at me like, what? Vulnerable? I said, yeah, let's all get vulnerable. I said, this is not about right. This is not about wrong. This is about being in agreement. And so everyone, there's a bunch of other guys basically started saying, yeah, he's right. He's right. We chose to do this. We chose to do this. And then, some other guys were like, yeah, you know what? We can't lie about something that we're feeling. And so then next, I think maybe like another 30 minutes went by, and I think by this time everyone was really tired. They were just to the point where they just wanted to just like kind of give in. And so when the two facilitators came in, the funniest thing, when the two facilitators came in, they basically asked, "Are we all in?" And then and everybody yelled, "Yes!" So they weren't even able to finish asking, are we all in agreement? And so it was crazy because right after that, like the next, the two facilitators came into the square, and then you saw some other facilitators come in, and and they basically just said like, did you guys get to see how life outside of this room looks like, where you've got all these people in disagreement, all these, especially men, like we're not in agreement. We always have an opinion about how things should be. We have an opinion about how things should go. We have all these opinions, yet we're not, and then we don't want to listen, right? Because we're men, and we know, because we were raised to be what? Responsible, like, and take responsibility, and and be, and regardless of what it cost us, and like just to be who we are, and regardless of our feelings, right? And they said, yeah, this is how people live outside this room. Like, you guys got to see it, front and center, and you guys got to see the ugliness of what it looks like. But out there in the world, in the real world, it says it's really ugly. People don't get along. It could be because of race, religion. It could be because of views, and it was crazy because this morning, I think when I was doing some research for something, and it said exactly that. It said, people in today's world, people are in such disagreement that they're willing to put their life on the line for it, over something that technically doesn't even exist, right? It only exists in our mind. Like my belief in, let's say in a certain subject, my belief in this subject is this and that, and if you don't, share my belief, then screw you. Like, but it shouldn't be like that. It should be where if we go back in time, there was always, minds were more pragmatic. They were more like, hey, what's your belief? This. Okay, hey, what's your belief? That. Hey, you know what? I respect you. Hey, I respect you too. We've got two different beliefs. No problem. Let it be what it is. And hey, you know what? We can still get along. We can still be friends. But nowadays, we live in a world where if your belief and my belief don't align, then next we're not friends. Most likely, we can't even be neighbors. And it becomes almost like there's almost like a battle for the souls, right? So, where, you've got your own point of view. So now you're hanging out with people and you're in alignment with people that are exactly with your point of view and your beliefs. And then you've got this other side where they've got their own beliefs and they've got their own views. But there is no more respect, right? respect for people's beliefs or views. And that's where we're going to be doing a lot of the work to unite, because unity is going to be what's going to start helping us heal, you know? And to heal, we need to understand that, like I said, all us men, we're all the same, you know? Different walks of life, different races, different religions, different everything. But we're all the same in the sense that we're all going through something or other at all points of times in the day.